Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sure. Sorry. Okay. Sure. No worries. This for me. Thank you. Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. Ah, it's okay. It's okay. So good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Can you hear me okay? Is that all right? Yeah. So, just before I begin, is there anything any of you are interested in? A topic, a question, something on your mind? I'm happy to take some ideas and go in the direction perhaps that some of you may want to go. Does anyone have anything they're particularly interested to discuss? Or would you like me to pick something? Anyone?
Why do we make the same mistakes again and again?
Why do we make the same mistakes again and again? Okay, let's go with that. Okay, so let me read a verse from the Bhagavad Gita and then we'll kind of take it from there. So I'm going to read today from the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. The 9th chapter is entitled The Most Confidential Knowledge. And here Krishna explains why what he's teaching to Arjuna is very, very valuable and can help us from making the same mistakes again and again. So Einstein, he defined madness. Einstein said madness means to keep doing the same thing again and again and expect a different result. So what happens in life is we end up doing the same thing again and again. We make the same mistakes again and again. And we think somehow or other that this time it will be different. But it's not different. It's the same thing again and again. But we get clouded over by ignorance and we keep doing the same thing. Ignorance is so strong that oftentimes, even when we know something, ignorance is still so strong that we do the wrong thing. 40 years ago on a cigarette packet, it said, smoking may damage your health. 10 years later, the message was, smoking seriously damages your health. 10 years after that, the message was, smoking causes cancer. And now, the message on cigarette packets is, smoking kills. And the most amazing thing is, people look at that message and in the very same moment, in the very next moment, they pick out a cigarette and they smoke it. Is someone who smokes a cigarette exercising free will? Yes or no?
No.
Yes? No?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Someone looks at something and says, this is going to kill you. And in the very next moment, they still do it. Are they exercising free will?
Yes.
It's interesting. If a drunk person is under the influence of alcohol and does something completely out of character, are they exercising their free will? See, it's very interesting, isn't it? In one sense, you could say yes to all of these points, and you could say no as well. Yes, they are exercising their free will because they had the choice when they decided to put that alcohol within them, whether to do it or not. But then you can say once they're under the influence, they can't access their free will anymore. So in one sense, they're not exercising their free will. In another sense, they are utilizing their free will. And it's the same thing. Someone who smokes cigarettes, in one sense, they are exercising their free will, but in another sense, they're not, because they're not able to say no to something they want to say no to. So why do we keep making mistakes again and again? Because we haven't been enlightened with knowledge. When our intelligence is stronger than our emotions, then we won't make mistakes. Right. Isn't it like they used to have those cartoons where on one side there's a devil and on the other side there's the angel, and then there's the confused person in between. And which one's going to win? Which voice is going to win? The voice which is louder. So within each of our beings there is the mind or the emotions or the impulses, and then there's the intelligence. And depending on which one is stronger, you will make your decisions. Therefore, we tell people, don't give up what you want most for what feels good now. If we could follow that one mantra in our life, don't give up what you want most for what feels good now. We tell people, don't listen to your loudest desire. Listen to your deepest desire. But what we often do is we forget our deepest desire and we listen to our loudest desire. And so Krishna says to Arjuna in the beginning of the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Rajavidya Rajaguyam Pavitram Idamutamam Pratyakshavadamam Dharmyam Susukam Kartumavyayam. Krishna says to Arjuna that this knowledge that I'm giving you, this spiritual knowledge, this knowledge is the Raja Vidya. That means it's the king of all knowledge. It's the best of all knowledge. It's the knowledge which is actually going to help you find happiness. You see, in the world today we have so many universities, but none of these universities teach you the king of all knowledge. I also went to university. And universities are very good because they teach you knowledge which is going to help you to earn a living. They teach you knowledge which is going to help you deal with day-to-day life. They teach you knowledge which is going to help you to pay your bills and to find security in the world. But that knowledge is not going to be able to navigate you to real happiness in and of itself. For that knowledge, you need to access a spiritual body of knowledge. And that's where books like the Bhagavad Gita can give us something very, very unique. So, in basic answer to your question, why do we keep making the same mistakes again and again? Is because our intelligence is not strong enough. Therefore, if you interface with spiritual knowledge every single day, right at the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita there's a verse, Maline moshanam pumsham jalashnanam dine dine Gita shakrit bhashi shnanam samsara malanashanam Very simple Sanskrit. Jala means water. Shnanam means bath. Dine dine means every single day. Jala shnanam dine dine. Just as you take a bath with water every single day to cleanse your body, similarly, you should take a bath every single day in the words of spiritual books of wisdom. Because what they do is they clarify your consciousness, they clarify your intelligence, they clarify and help you understand what is my deepest desire, and let me not give up my deepest desire in and trade it in just for what is coming up as the loudest desire right now. This is the biggest problem in the world today, is addiction. Right? There's so many different types of addiction. Addiction to alcohol, addiction to narcotics, drugs, addiction to pornography, addiction to so many things that people know this is not beneficial for me. But practically they can't give it up because the intelligence hasn't been strengthened by spiritual knowledge. Therefore, if you look in recovery programs now, there's a 12-step program. And you know what the first step is, right? In recovery programs. That I cannot overcome this by myself. I have to believe there's a higher power, there's a higher wisdom, there's a higher spiritual energy. And that's exactly why people keep making the same mistake again, is because they don't tap into the higher wisdom that can help them to strengthen their intelligence so that they continue on. So if we want to go in a progressive direction in our life, then we have to understand these basic things that are given in spiritual books of wisdom. The very first things we must understand in our life is, who am I? Where am I? And what is the purpose of life? If people understand everything in life but they don't understand these things, know for sure that they're going to make mistakes. The first thing you have to understand is, who am I? Am I this body? Am I this identity that I've made up? Am I this profile that I put on social media to show the world? Who am I really beyond all of these things? Who am I in essence? The second thing is, we have to understand, where am I? What is this world? Why does it even exist? Where did it come from? Why does it function the way it functions? And the third thing we have to understand is, what is my purpose here? What am I meant to be doing? What is my ultimate goal? What is my highest and deepest aspiration? Where is happiness really to be found? The most amazing thing in life is people study and do all kinds of things, but they don't take the time to ask, and more importantly, to answer these fundamental questions. And if we don't answer these questions, then definitely we will keep making mistakes. Therefore, the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita is presented by Krishna to help us understand these things. Does this help? Yes, you want to ask something more?
No. Still we know everything, but the thing is, when it comes to time for implementation, it doesn't work like that.
I know it theoretically,
Yes.
but when it comes to the moment where you have to apply it,
When we go from here and then again to the same now, it's quite difficult.
yeah. So therefore, it's said that when you grasp knowledge, there's different levels of knowledge. One type of knowledge is known as Gyan. Gyan can mean different things, but in one context it can mean theoretical knowledge. But then there is something called Vigyan, which means realized knowledge. Knowledge which has gone into a deeper space within one's consciousness. Therefore, you can have Gyan, theoretical knowledge, but in the heat of the moment, because it hasn't actually gone into the deepest space in your consciousness, in the heat of the moment, you can forget that knowledge and do something else. Therefore, the Gyan, or the theoretical knowledge, has to become Vigyan, realized knowledge. So then the question that we're all going to ask is, how do you make it realized knowledge? So therefore, the Vedic process of learning is that you don't just learn by hearing. Hearing is just the first step. In the Vedic process of learning, you go through 3 stages: Shravanam, Mananam, and then Nididhyasanam, and then Vandanam. If you go through these 4 processes, then what will happen is that the theoretical knowledge will become realized knowledge, and when it becomes realized knowledge, in the heat of the moment, you'll still be able to follow that knowledge. So the first step in learning is Shravanam. You hear many, many things. But that's not enough. Like, you could come to this class today, you could hear so many things, and you could go away, and actually it may not have deeply transformed you, because Shravanam in and of itself is not enough. The next thing you have to do is Mananam. And Mananam means you have to deeply reflect. You have to deeply think about these things. You have to ask yourself, what did I hear today? What does that mean for my life? How does this relate? Do I have any questions? Does it make sense? You actually have to think about it. And then the third step is Nididhyasanam. You have to take that knowledge, reflect on it, and then what you have to do is you have to apply it and make some change in your life. So if you go out of a class and then you think about what was said, and then tomorrow you change something in your life based on what you heard, then that knowledge is going deeper. And then the 4th step is Vandanam. You have to pray that, Krishna, please let that knowledge fully blossom within my heart. So therefore, getting knowledge is not just about hearing and reading more and more and more. Imagine, for example, you open your mouth and someone just kept stuffing food in it. So that's good. But then at one point you need to close your mouth and you need to start chewing. And then at one point, after you've chewed it enough, you need to swallow it. And then after it's been swallowed, you need to allow your digestion to then transfer it into energy. In other words, putting food in the mouth is just the first step. So oftentimes what happens in the Hare Krishna movement and in any spiritual tradition is that people think, if I read and if I hear, then that means I've got knowledge. No, you've just got the first step of knowledge. Now you have to think about it, now you have to apply it, and now you have to try to deeply pray that it actually becomes awakened in your heart. Actually, you don't need to know so many things. If you know the basic things, but you actually know them, your life will transform. One verse is enough, if you've understood it deeply enough. Therefore, that's why even though you get knowledge, in the heat of the moment, you still continue acting in the wrong way, because the knowledge hasn't transformed into realization. Does that make sense? Yes.
Can you just explain the second question a little bit? Like, why are we here? Probably the purpose of life we know is to go back to Godhead. But why exactly are we here?
So according to the Bhagavad Gita, this world is a school, it's a university, it's a place we've come to learn lessons. Why are we here in this world? Because there's certain things that we need to learn. There's certain things we need to learn about ourselves. There's certain things we need to learn about God. There's certain things we need to learn about happiness. And therefore, every single experience that we go through in this world is meant to actually teach us something. And that's why this whole world is functioning on the law of karma. They say there's a new restaurant in town. It's called Karma. But there's no menu. You get what you deserve. So in this world, we get so many experiences. And every single thing that happens to us in this world is meant to teach us something. Nothing happens by chance. Nothing's random. Nothing just happens because it happened. Every single thing is purposeful. The people who are around you are not there by chance. They're specifically there because they're meant to teach you something. Even the annoying people. Every single experience, every single success, every single failure, every single time there's something that goes to plan, and every single time that there's something which goes against your plan, none of it is random. Everything is meant to teach us something. And therefore, the wisest people, they understand that I'm constantly being taught by every single event, experience, and emotion of life. And so why does this world exist? It exists as a place in which we can become wise. And so the world is like a cosmic university. And through knowledge like the Bhagavad Gita, we can begin to decode our karma. Because people ask, yeah, all these things are happening to me. How am I supposed to figure out the lesson? Well, that's why the spiritual knowledge is there. Because it helps you to see why things are happening to you and what you're meant to learn from them. And what happens in life is if we don't learn the lessons, then you know what's going to happen, right? The same thing is going to keep happening to us again and again and again until we do learn the lesson. And so this world is an opportunity for us to evolve our consciousness. That's why this world exists. Does that make sense? Thank you. Yes.
Maharaj, I just want to ask, how can we identify pure devotee, or how to be a pure devotee if someone is not wearing tilak and they are in tribal attire? How can we identify as a pure devotee or this thing? What qualities we as a person or as a aspiring devotee I have to adopt so that it can come in my character?
So how does one identify who is a pure spiritualist, who is actually a pure soul? There's no external factor that determines who is a pure soul. They may be in spiritual attire, they may not be in spiritual attire. They may be externally looking a certain way, or they may not look that way. The one essential quality of someone who's a pure soul is that they're completely selfless. If if you ever come across someone in their life who every single act, every single decision, every single every way in which they live their life is based on selflessness, then you can understand this is a pure soul. The degree of selflessness defines the level of spirituality in someone's life. And the amount of selfishness defines how much they're still in material consciousness. And when one develops more and more selflessness, then all the other qualities like tolerance, compassion, truthfulness, non-enviousness, all of those qualities naturally come. And to the extent that one has more and more selfishness in their life, then there'll be more greed, there'll be more anger, there'll be more envy, there'll be more pride, there'll be more arrogance, there'll be more harshness. So you can think of purity as a continuum from selfishness to selflessness. And the more you come this side, you develop all the other saintly qualities. And the more we're self-centered, the more we will develop those other qualities. And therefore, Arjuna asked Krishna on many, many occasions in the Gita, how do I identify who's a pure soul? And so Krishna gives all the qualities. Apayam sattvasam suder jnana yoga vyavastiti danam damascha yagyascha svadhyayas tapa arjavam ahimsa satyam akrodas tyaga kshantirapeshanam dayabhuteshvalo luktvam mardavam rera chapalam. Ahimsa, non-violent. Akroda, no anger. Danam, charitable. Tyaga, renounced. So he gives all the different qualities. And he says all of these qualities come from selflessness.
So, Maharaj, is selflessness going towards selflessness being impure soul, like a person like me who is just starting their journey in spiritual life. So it is very difficult. So how can I develop this thing in myself? Like, because if I am in temple, I have different behavior. If I am going outside, so in the outside world, I have to be little bit sharp or little bit conscious about the surrounding and also think about me. So how can I develop these things? It is not intentionally that I am doing, but it comes by its own.
Yeah, so what does it mean to practically be selfless in your life? Does it mean, you get your wage at the end of the month and then you just give it all away to someone? Or does it mean at work you just let everyone just kind of step all over you because, it's not about me anyway? How do you do this in a practical way? So in the world you have to be practical. You have to survive. You have to interact and you have to get by your day-to-day duties. But to be selfless means that in the ultimate sense, whatever I receive in my life, I try to engage that in bringing happiness to other people's lives, in service to God, in service to humanity, like that. So yes, you go to work. And at work, you have to be practical. Sometimes you have to be assertive. Sometimes you have to say if something is wrong. But at the end of the day, from your work, you get certain skills. From your work, you get a certain wage. From your work, you get a certain influence. So what you do is all of those things that you get from your work, you utilize it for a higher purpose than just your own enjoyment. Then what happens is your work becomes selfless because you're utilizing the fruits, the results of your work in service to others. Does that make sense? So if you're a student, if you're working, whatever you may be doing, Selflessness means you do it to the best of your ability, and then whatever results you get from that, you try to utilize it in something higher than just your own enjoyment. Then it will bring great happiness in your life. Does that make sense? Yes.
You mentioned about like there are people who are put into our life to teach us something. But I have a question. How do we deal with annoying people? Because sometimes I find myself having very less threshold, knowing that, there's something very basic, even in terms of mannerism or, how people say to you. And being a person that operates from emotions, I sometimes find it hurtful, and I don't know how to deal with it.
So the first thing to understand is that there are annoying people in our life, but we may also be annoying to other people as well. One time someone came to Srila Prabhupada and said, I just can't tolerate this devotee anymore. Prabhupada said, you have to tolerate him just as I'm tolerating you. So the first thing is, in this world, we're all kind of, to some extent, getting on each other's nerves.
Yeah.
Because we're all individuals. We have different personalities. And so there's always going to be some level of that. First thing to understand. That helps us to be more patient. Helps us to be. Second thing is, if there were never annoying people in your life, if there were not people who were to some extent provoking you, you'd never have the chance to develop your internal muscles of humility, of tolerance. See, if I want to develop muscles, if I just keep lifting this, I can do it all day, and I'm not going to develop many muscles because there's no resistance there. But when there's weight, when there's resistance, and I still lift, that's when you develop muscle. So in your life, if there was never people who provoked you, if there aren't people who annoy you, who get on your nerves, then there's no opportunity for you to develop your inner muscles of tolerance and humility. So you can see that, yes, they are there. It's a good opportunity for me to be patient. It's a good opportunity for me to be unaffected by that. And so take it like that they are giving you an opportunity to exercise. And that's very good. We need that. The third thing to realize is that when there's annoying people in your life, don't take it personally. Everyone is just going through what they're going through. We take it so personally. Oh, they don't like me. But actually, most people are just struggling. They're struggling with their mind. They're struggling with their own problems. They're struggling with their own unhappiness. And sometimes you just end up being on the receiving end of it. But don't take it so personally. It's not often about you. It's more about them. So it's okay. Everyone's going through what they're going through. Everyone has, difficult days. There was once this YouTube video. So it kind of showed people this person kind of walking through this kind of shopping mall, and like everyone had a certain type of face. A kind of a miserable face. So you kind of look at it and think, my God, everyone here is so miserable. And then it showed the same video walking through all those faces, but this time there was kind of like a bubble above each person explaining what had just happened to them today. And then when you look at their face and you realize, oh my God, that's what they just went through today, you're kind of like, okay, now I understand why they're like that, So everyone has a hidden story which is causing them to act the way they're acting. And oftentimes we don't see that hidden story. All we see is just the way they're acting, and then we react to that. But we have to understand that behind everything, something is causing that person to be like that. See, like, for example, if someone in their life wants a lot of attention, the hidden story is probably that they weren't given much love when they were young. Or if someone is always seeking a lot of power, the hidden story is probably that when they were younger, people exploited them. So like that, there's always a hidden story which is causing people to act the way they're acting. So when we take the time to appreciate that, then we don't react as much to what they do like that. Is that okay?
Yeah, like 90% of the time that's the case, that it's there in our mind that there is a hidden story or there is a background, there is a upbringing, whatever it is. But that 10% sometimes gets to the heart, and like later on when I reflect, I was like, this could have handled differently. And that 10% is also how we convert 90, that 9% to 10% is what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and you know, like if with some people it's just becoming too much, then just some people you just have to keep a respectful distance and just say like, okay, just give them some breathing room, give me some breathing room, and you know, so you may also do that. But the reality is that wherever you go, you are always going to come across these situations. It's the world we're living in. Therefore, we need to try to become more mature so that we don't allow all of these things to bring our consciousness down. Like that. Is that okay? Anyone else?
I have one question. Like last year I asked one question from you, like I'm suffering, I'm not able to complete my chanting or my rounds. So you give me one very practical tip. I follow that and it was very helpful. So this year I have another question. Like I have to manage like laziness and procrastination. How can I overcome that thing?
How to overcome laziness and procrastination. Okay, so the first reason why we procrastinate or why we're lazy is because we don't have something in our life which is inspiring us enough. When you have something which is so inspiring, there's no way you can be lazy. There's no way you can procrastinate because it's just too exciting. They say the best alarm clock in the world is purpose. Because when your eyes open in the morning and you've got a purpose, no one has to tell you you're going to jump out of bed. So the first reason why we're lazy, the first reason why we procrastinate is because we haven't got something exciting in our life. If oversleeping is more exciting than getting up, it means our life is not exciting enough. Therefore, the first thing we have to ask ourselves is, do I have some compelling goal in my life? Now, someone may have an amazing goal in their life, but then if they don't have a step-by-step plan of how I'm going to reach that goal, that's another reason why they may fall into procrastination and laziness. They have something they want to achieve, amazing in life, but they don't know what are the step-by-step things I have to do to get there. They haven't broken it down. So that could be another reason why you procrastinate, because you just don't know, like, what's the journey to get there? I have no idea. What do I need to do tomorrow to get to that amazing place? And the third thing is that you may have an amazing thing you're trying to achieve. You may know the steps that you're meant to be doing to get there, But the third thing is, if you don't have a good environment around you, if you don't have good encouraging people, if you don't have the habitat which gives you the confidence to go on that journey, then you can again fall into procrastination and laziness. So if you want to overcome procrastination and laziness, number one is make sure you have an amazing thing you're trying to achieve in your life. Number two, make sure you know the step-by-step things you have to do every single day to get there. And number three, make sure you're surrounded by the right people and the right environment that's going to energize you every single day to walk that path. If you have these three things in your life, generally there's no way you'll waste your time. So time is so valuable. Chanakya says, Ayusha kshana eko pi, nalabhya svarna koti pi, nache nirarthakam niti kachahan istatodhika. Even one moment of time, if it's lost, you can't buy it back even with millions of gold coins. Therefore, the time that we have is so valuable. So we can't afford to waste time. So, therefore, one must have something like, these things in their life. Then that procrastination will not come. Does it make sense?
Yeah, mostly I feel problem in starting something. If I get the momentum in doing something, that it goes well. But mostly I feel problem in starting something. But if I get the momentum, it goes well.
Yeah, the start is always the hardest. Like when the alarm clock goes off, it's just like... But the amazing thing is, once you actually get up, it's actually really nice. Isn't it? Like even sometimes to pick up your beads in the morning. But once you start chanting, it's very nice. To open a book sometimes. But once you're into a few pages, very nice. So when you start driving a car, to get from 0 to 20 miles per hour takes the most amount of petrol. After that, not so much, because the momentum is going. So the first step is always the hardest. When I joined the temple, one of the monks, he said to me, the distance between the material world and the spiritual world is equal to the distance between your sleeping bag and the shower at 4 a.m. in the morning. If you can make that distance, you can make that distance. So that's the hard distance to make, to wake up in the morning, because the mind is screaming. The first battle of the day is the battle with your own mind. And if you win that battle, you can win any other battle. So the great people win that battle first. Sorry? We need to stop here, right?
Just one online question. They just maybe texted there and then they texted me as well. If maybe next we can ask us.
We have time, Maharaj.
Do we have time?
Yeah, but maybe
Everyone needs to take Prasadam also.
Prasadam is not ready yet.
Okay.
So Maharaj, question is, there is a common belief that everyone who enters our lives, whether good or bad, has some karmic connection or debt with us. This is especially true for those who cause us pain without any fault of our own. how can we ensure we resolve this karmic debt so that we don't face similar challenges again in the future?
You see, why does karma come to you? Karma comes to teach you a lesson. Karma is educational. So the idea is that whenever we get a karmic reaction in our life, if we learn the lesson, then it won't reappear again. But if we don't learn the lesson, then we'll find that the same situation keeps happening again and again and again. Because it's the universe telling us, you're not learning the lesson. And so what often happens in life is that whenever a problem comes, we just try to run away from the problem, or we just try to kind of superficially solve the problem. But what happens is we're not learning from the problem. Pain has a purpose. Problems are meant for progress. And people come to teach us things. So, if we learn the lesson, then the karmic reaction doesn't keep coming back. See? So it's like this. Like you find this a lot in relationships, romantic relationships. People keep doing the same thing again and again, same problem in relationships. Because they don't learn from the last one. Behaviors don't change. Then consequences come again. Like that.
Thank you.
But somewhere emotions, means my first question is related to this, and then after sometimes emotions doesn't help us, means we cannot deal with the emotions on the same thing.
You can't deal with the emotions? What do you mean?
Means for example, like in relationship, so sometimes with the emotions we flow with the emotions. We cannot think practically, and we do that mistake.
That's why we have two faculties within us, emotionality and rationality. And both are important. If you only have rationality, you can't actually really have a deep relationship with someone because you're not investing your heart. It's just all in the head. But at the same time, if it's all emotionality and there's no rationality, then you also can't have a relationship with someone because there's no structure to the relationship. There's no logic to it. Therefore, if you really want to have a deep relationship with someone, there's the head and there's the heart. Both have to be there. So oftentimes what happens is people don't know how to blend emotionality and rationality in a relationship. And therefore you get hurt. You get frustrated. Last Christmas, I gave you my heart. Very next day. All of those kind of things.
Just one thing, maybe we can give first chance to those who haven't asked any question yet, and then to those who are asking again, so that everybody can get fair chance.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Always a pleasure with your lecture. So it's related to the topic that you were discussing just a few minutes back. So yeah, situation comes back to teach us, right? If we haven't learned from the past experiences. And so related to that, my query is, so does the same actors come back? Like there is a thing called parabdha, right? The karmic debt. Say for example, if I owe someone something in my previous life, say it's person A, right? will that person
Will they
some-
specifically come back?
or it will come through different actors, different, because as a day, it's also a stage.
Yeah, not necessarily. It doesn't have to be the same person. Different people may come and deliver you your reactions. But sometimes it may be the same person. For example, this is a warning for those of you who are about to have children. There are 4 types of son. And one type of son is known as Rini Putra. And this type of son is someone in your past life who you kind of ripped off. Someone you exploited in your past life. Someone you embezzled in your last life. What may happen is this person who you embezzled of money, they may come in your next life as your son. And smiling and laughing and with all their charm, Papa, Papa, they'll take all your money away from you. Just a little warning there, just a little warning. I'm just joking. But yes, so these things can happen. It's like that. So sometimes it may be someone you specifically have a karmic entanglement with. Sometimes it will just be another representative who then comes and takes things away. Yes.
And just following on from this man's, kind of laziness.
Laziness, procrastination.
And purpose.
Purpose, yeah.
And purpose, like we have a goal in mind, but you have maybe some fears, doubts, and the environment, as you said, is so important. But are you a believer, like, in the power of prayer to pray to Krishna for guidance and all the assistance that you can if you do want to, go a certain direction in your life?
Yeah, 100%. Krishna is in your heart, and Krishna says, Sarvasya chaham hridhi sanivishto mata smritir jnanam apohanam cha. I'm in your heart, and from me comes knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. And so the idea is that it's amazing. People think of God as someone very, very far away. But in the Vedic concept, God is not a faraway divinity. God is very, very close. So close that He's in your heart. And so close that if you pray, if you actually treat God as a person, and if you actually try to genuinely open your heart in conversation with that God, then He'll guide you, He'll inspire you, and He'll arrange. God is alive, He's active, He's attentive, and He's affectionate. And He's on your side. He wants you to be a winner. But we have to be more personal. So we've kind of become very, very expert at ignoring divinity, God, who's within our own heart. So now is an opportunity to change that. And yes, definitely the power of prayer. Thank you. Yes.
Hare Krishna. 4 years ago, I delved into Krishna consciousness. I was a regular devotee at ISKCON, and I could surrender myself to Krishna. I was obedient devotee, and I felt like I was one with him. But now, I don't feel like I am able to surrender myself to him. even I feel like there's something obstructing me and I do not know what to do. Can you in your infinite wisdom tell me or rather guide me to what can I do?
Thank you. In your spiritual journey, you are always moving forward. You haven't taken any steps back. Krishna says, Neha Bikramanasosti Pratyavayo Navidyate. In this journey, there's no loss or diminution. So however many steps forward you take, even if at one point you stop moving forward, you never go back. You just continue on from the same point. So you may feel as though you've lost a connection or that you're further away, but actually everything that you achieved and all the progress that you made, it remains with you. But yes, you're in a different situation in your life now. You have a different set of circumstances. You have different challenges. You have different emotions and things going on in your heart. Therefore, every single day you have to refresh your relationship with God, refresh your relationship with Krishna. And what I would say is, again, as I said to the last question, be personal. Speak to God. Open your heart. And reveal what's blocking you. And if you enter into a personal exchange with Krishna, then Krishna will, through his books, through his devotees, and through life situations, he will reveal to you what it is that you need to do to move forward. So, God is speaking to us every single day. But we just need to open our hearts, open our ears, open our minds to really hearing those messages. And the more that you open your heart in speaking and asking those questions, the more you'll be able to also grasp those answers. So don't worry, you're on the journey, you're here. And now you need to go deeper. So it will happen. It's okay.
Maharaj, Hare Krishna. Maharaj, my question is, how can we progress in bhakti while facing ups and downs, happiness or distress in our material life?
So how do we progress in our spirituality even when we're facing ups and downs in our material life? Well, that's the ideal combination. The world is perfectly imperfect. The world is meant to frustrate you. The world is meant to make you realize there's no point hanging around here trying to be happy. The world is designed to give you problems so that you develop that detachment of trying to continually try to find a comfortable situation in an uncomfortable place. And so when you're going through ups and downs in your material life, you can take it that this is another reminder that this world, it's not a permanent place. It's no place to remain. Because everything in this world is temporary. Everything in this world is constantly changing. And everything in this world is miserable. Oh my God. Can you not be more positive? It might sound like a very pessimistic outlook. Is a devotee pessimistic or is a devotee optimistic? We're pessimistic about the material world, but we're very, very optimistic about the spiritual world. And therefore, at one point we lose our faith in trying to find happiness here. And that's very good. Because that means now we can really invest ourselves in trying to find happiness in the real place. Otherwise, we're just going to keep on getting frustrated here. So when those problems come in material life, then we take it. It's a good arrangement. That's how we have to try and see it. Yes.
Hare Krishna. I have a question like how to be attentive, like always when, like I think it's happened with everyone. So when I am doing when I'm doing japa, when I'm cooking, when I'm studying, like whatever I'm doing, I always have like thinking, I have one after the other things. So I cannot
Be in the moment.
be in the moment. I always think like one and the other thing. So how to be attentive at one, like when I'm doing japa, I'm doing japa. When I'm doing studying, I'm studying. I don't want it to switch my mind and thinking of one and the other things. So it's very I'm very distractive things. So how to overcome with this?
See, what our mind always convinces us is that perfection is in the future. However, what we have to try to realize more and more is that perfection is in the moment. It's not that I'm doing what I'm doing because then in the future something's going to happen where I'm going to be perfect. In the moment, what you're doing is perfect. You're exactly where you're meant to be. Now, immediately you can't just realize that. But more and more what we have to try to understand is that whatever activity we do, if we do it with our heart, with our mind, with our attention, with our devotion in that moment, then perfection is actually right there. And the more and more we meditate in that way, then what will happen is that we're less and less living out of sync with the present. So how do you get to that state of consciousness? That's why we're constantly reading, we're constantly hearing, we're constantly reminding ourselves. That, every spiritual activity is perfect in the moment. So gradually, eventually, you have to realize that for yourself. Otherwise, we're constantly, did you ever watch one of those films where the audio and the video is out of sync? Isn't it annoying? Our life is basically like that. We're always kind of out of sync. Our mind and our presence is out of sync. But eventually we realize, I'm chanting now. If I die now, this is it. It's perfection. Let me just be in the moment. And when you live like that, actually, you live a very happy life. So yes, the power of now. Na sochati, na kankshati. No lamentation about the past, no hankering for the future. Just happy to be there in the present. I do, but I'm just concerned. It's a Thursday evening. Is Prashant ready or not?
we have a kirtan after this.
Oh, we have a
for-
kirtan after this. Okay.
For others.
30 minutes.
We have 30 minutes kirtan for the guests, audience.
Okay.
Prasad is not ready.
Oh, Prashant. Yeah, I'm okay. I don't mind. Whatever you all want to do. Do you want to do kirtan or do you want to ask questions? It's up to you.
We are just concerned of like your schedule.
I'm okay. No, I'm fine. It's up to all of you. Would you like to sing or would you like to ask questions? Okay. I'll ask who didn't ask and then I come back to you. Is that okay?
Maharaj will be here for 2 more days. Yes.
It's very hard to get hold of. Maharaj, I read one book of yours, Living Life, Embracing Death. You wrote that on a very dear friend of yours, and that is something that it was a very, very beautiful book, and the cover page made me buy that book in a manner. I still remember that. I want to ask, like, we know we are a soul, we live in this world, we have different relationships, but how do we deal with like fear of losing ones, loved ones? And that's one of the questions that I have.
Yeah, so just for those of you who aren't familiar, I wrote a book about one of our monks. When he was 31, he got diagnosed with colon cancer. He lived for another 5 years. So in that book, I just talked about his final journey of how he left this world. He left this world when he was 36 years old. So the question here is, how do we deal with losing loved ones? See, Krishna consciousness, spiritual life is not meant to make you hard-hearted and emotionless. It's not that now we know we're not this body, we're the soul. Therefore, people leave the world. It's okay, they're still living, they're souls. And therefore, we just become cold. No. Naturally, we have relationships of love with people. We have bonds of affection. We've shared so much together. We've served each other. We've seen each other through ups and downs. So naturally, whenever someone leaves this world, it's going to be difficult. Even in spiritual relationships, we cry when people leave this world. Does that mean that somehow you're in kind of illusion or you're materially attached? No. Because we're humans, we have emotions. And it's not just material emotion, we're spiritually moved by other people. So the first thing I would say is that being a spiritual person doesn't make you heartless. And it doesn't mean that all of a sudden you have no issues with anyone leaving this world. Naturally, it's hard, even for a spiritually realized person. However, the difference with a spiritually realized person is that, yes, they feel pain when someone leaves this world. Yes, they feel the loss. Yes, they feel in their heart some disappointment, some difficulty naturally, but they never lose sight of what their goal in life is. They don't become overwhelmed by the emotions. They don't become debilitated by the emotions. They don't lose their way in life. When his son Abhimanyu died on the battlefield, then Arjun cried. This is after he heard the whole Bhagavad Gita. Arjun cried. But then what did he do? The very next moment he picked up his bow and he started fighting again. So when you become a spiritual person, it's not that you lose your heart, you lose your emotions, but it's just that your emotions now don't bewilder you, they don't overwhelm you, and they don't stop you from moving forward in your life and doing what you're meant to do, like that. Is that okay? Yes.
I had this one question for a very long time. If there is somebody who's willing to love us for who we are, so do we decide to spend our life with them, or do we choose somebody whom we love, but there's no reciprocation? Like with one person, he's or she is willing to love us, but like there's not enough level of emotional reciprocation in that relationship. Whereas the situation might be the other way around. So how do we choose somebody in that sense?
That's why I took sannyas. See, first and foremost, you have to love Krishna. In any relationship in this world, it's never just between two people. Krishna is always there. So first you have to love Krishna. When you love Krishna, when you love God, then what you can do is you can learn to see Krishna. You can learn to see divinity within everyone. Love is not just an emotion. Love is not just a feeling. Love means service. Once I was giving a class and someone put their hand up and said, Swamiji, do you believe in love marriages or do you believe in arranged marriages? So I looked at the person, I said, do all love marriages have love in them? He said, some do, some don't. I said, do all arranged marriages have love in them? He said, some do, some don't. I said, so to be honest, it doesn't really matter how you come together. What matters is what you do after you're together. Chemistry may bring two people together, but commitment is what's going to create love. So love is about service. So therefore, in the Vedic teachings, they say you don't marry the one you love. Come again. You don't marry the one you love. You learn to love the one you marry. Now someone may think like that, what? But the idea is there's a very deep teaching there. That in the world today we put so much emphasis on chemistry, on attraction. But that's not what creates love. What creates love is commitment, sacrifice, selflessness. And that type of love is love that you have to work for. But that's real love. So, find someone who you can serve and who returns that service with selflessness. And by keeping Krishna in the center of your relationship, then you can have a very wonderful relationship and in the deepest way actually have an experience of love, not just some external, superficial attraction. Just my little love advice. Yes.
So whenever there is a problem, so I always think that irrespective of whatever the outcome is, my mind thinks 100 different possibilities and then it always wanders. So actually the problem might be simple, but my mind keeps thinking about, oh, this could happen, that could happen. It's always that 100 possibilities and I lose sleep over it because I keep thinking about, oh, this might happen, that might happen. How to calm the mind whenever the problem arises.
So when a problem comes up, the mind is continuously coming up with options. What about this? What about that? If I do this, if I do that, and how to calm the mind. The first thing to understand is that behind every problem, above every problem, is Krishna. They say, don't tell God how big your problems are. Tell your problems how big God is. So the first thing is that we don't understand that behind all of these problems and above all of these problems is Krishna. And Krishna is my best friend. And if I sincerely try to do something with the best of motivations, then why will God not back me up? Therefore Krishna says to Arjuna, Machita sarvadurgani matprasadat tarishashi atachetvam ahankaran nashroshashi vinangshashi. He says, if you become conscious of me, then you will cross over all of the obstacles of conditional life by my grace. So the problem is we try to solve the problems by trying to figure it out in our mind. And then it just goes on endless permutations. When what we really need to do is just take shelter of Krishna. That doesn't mean you don't use your brains. It doesn't mean you don't use your intelligence. It doesn't mean that you don't try to come up with a rational solution. But you realize, I come up with a solution according to the best of my ability, and then I just take shelter of God. And if there's any lacking on my part, then God will make it up. Krishna will make it up. So never lose that aspect of it. If you just try to solve it all in your own mind, in your own head, you'll go on an endless spiral. But know that there's someone there to help you. So try your best and then leave the rest. Does that help?
Yes, we'll leave the rest questions for tomorrow, Maharaj.
Okay.
Because if everybody will ask every question today, then they will not come tomorrow. And we want them back. So, and if you want questions and details, we have one good news for you all. First of all, we would like to thank His Holiness Swami Bhagavan Keshava Maharaj for his, he gave us that opportunity. And Maharaj came here from after a long tour of India and Braj Bandal Parikrama, and he came straight away here rather than going anywhere else. So we are very thankful, Maharaj, and I think everybody is feeling the same. So let's chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra together. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.